let me say that after this talk, we will deliver signed posters, and well, we are here to listen to you, Chris. All yours.
Well, it's so great to be here. I appreciate that you guys can hear me in English today. My Spanish is, of course, terrible. I want to thank Martin for inviting me, and Andreas also for getting me out from all the way from Redmond, Washington to come down here. My first time in Argentina, and the hospitality has been excellent. The food has been amazing. You guys are just, you know, these guys have been a great bunch, and thanks for giving me some of your time today. Now, I'm going to try to speak slowly, but after the previous thing, I'm telling you, I'm feeling a little old. I'll be quite honest with you. But that's going to play to my favor today, because I think there's something incredible that's happened in my career. And that is that I was able to get into this business before people even understood that there was this tremendous potential in interactive entertainment. The ability to create something on a computer. And that I fell in love. Okay, so I never thought I was a passionate person, but it turns out I'm extremely passionate. I am so passionate that people who talk to me, especially when I was younger, were like, whoa, you're blowing my freaking head off, my hair, everything. I can't be around you. I have to get space, because I'm so excited about what I did and what I do. So when I was asked to come speak, I had to think, okay, do I talk about things I've done, tricks I've learned, how to compute, you know, a divide by 3 and hand assembled, you know, an assembly and hand optimized assembly language. I mean, you guys have heard probably a lot of these things. So I thought, what is it that really defines me? Or at the very least, what is it that I've learned about myself after all these years? Now, I'm going to try my best to do something, which is to, if I do one thing, if I accomplish one thing today, in this next 45 minutes or so, is I want to inspire you. Okay, which means that some of you may stop doing what you're doing and do something else, because I may have given you that inspiration. That's my goal. My goal is not to entertain you to where you walk out thinking, well, that was fun, and then not having it change, having an effect, an influence on you. I want to influence you, okay? This is my goal. Like, when you see when you see a good movie, you think about it after you leave the theater, and maybe even weeks later. But a bad movie, you forget about after you walk out the door and get in your car. Okay, I don't want this to be a bad movie. I want you guys to take something away from this, okay? Now, some of you don't know who I am, and I respect that. You haven't got a clue who I am, and you're like, who's this guy? So I'm going to try to give you a little history and talk a little bit about what I've done, okay? And what's kind of cool is that a lot of you, I can tell by looking out into the audience here, are just beginning your careers. Maybe you're 3 and 4 and 5 years into your careers. I'll be long gone. I'll be living on a mountaintop, you know, cutting wood in a log cabin or something, you know, when you guys are still making games. And so I get, in a way, I get to travel back through time, and I get to speak to sort of myself, if you will. So this is an opportunity for me to talk to myself, and maybe I'm giving myself, this is like the movie clip. I'm in the house too. That was weird. That was so freaky. I gotta see that. I've not seen that. But this is an opportunity to give me, you know, pass some advice back in time. What would I do different? What did I learn? What was really important that I just couldn't even conceive of when I started in the business? Okay, so that's my goal. And we'll try to keep this into the, I'm gonna go for 45 minutes. All right, this is a very weird picture I put together. So, I've been making games professionally for 25 years. But I started in 1980 when I got my first computer, and people didn't have computers. The first thing I did when I got that computer set up and powered on, I wanted to play games. That's all I wanted to do. Now the games sucked. So of course I wanted to make my own games. And if you've ever programmed in BASIC on a machine that runs at 1.77 megahertz with 16K of RAM, you know that the games you program in BASIC suck too. So I had to learn how to code Z80 assembly language. And man alive, that was tough for a 14-year-old kid. And I tell you, I just kept at it. One thing I have, one quality I have, which is my best quality ever, is I'm stubborn. And that stubbornness paid off. Because you just keep going. When things are against you, you just keep going. Now, I got my lucky break in 1988. I got a job working at a little company called Distinctive Software. Has anyone here heard of Distinctive Software? One person. What's interesting about Distinctive Software is they were bought by Electronic Arts in 1991, I believe. This was the home of FIFA Soccer. This is the home of the Test Drive game, Need for Speed, NBA Live Basketball. Some amazing games. But you'll notice there's a theme in all these games. They were all sports games. And I wanted to blow stuff up. I mean, I talked about blowing stuff up. I'm not a terrorist. I realize that's not cool today. Talk about blowing stuff up. I mean, I gotta change my routine. But the fact is, back then it was all machine guns and tanks and planes and ships, and I wanted to blow everything up. And I had this passion, and then I had to go back to work on my baseball game. So I'm working on Hardball 2, and I'm doing the best damn job I can. We used all sorts of cool tricks in Hardball 2 you wouldn't notice. We were doing dirty rectangle management so there was no flicker, and I had the two-dimensional image of a baseball field reverse 3D map so the ball would bounce correctly, bounce off a back fence that was rendered by an artist in 2D, but matched the perfect 3D world. This is cool stuff, but it wasn't tanks. So after I did Hardball 2 and 4D boxing, and then I did another baseball game called Triple Play Baseball. I didn't even put on here that I did another baseball game called Virtual Stadium Baseball for the 3DO, Japanese market only. Well, I said to management, 3 strikes and you're out. I've had enough baseball to last me a lifetime. I didn't even want to know what an infield, what the hell, I can't even, infield fly. You guys know baseball, infield fly, ground rule double. The difference between a batting average and a slugging percentage. I mean, this was boring the shit out of me. I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. What the hell? But I got my break, and I learned how to code, and I learned how to work with library systems on teams, and it was good for me. It was good. It was like kind of like boot camp, you know, video games. But I wanted to blow stuff up, so I called an old producer friend and I said, hey, I'd like to get out of Electronic Arts Canada and start my own company. And this is when Shelley Dave introduced me to Ron Gilbert, the creator of Monkey Island. And he invited me down, and we did it. And I said, I want to blow stuff up. I want to do a game called I want to do a game with tanks and planes and ships. And it turned out to become Total Annihilation. Yeah. And this was the first time in my 8 years professionally where I got to do exactly what I wanted to do. I got to just sit down and I would be telling Ron would come by my desk and he'd say, what's going on? I'd say, well, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, I'm going to do some stuff like this, and I've got some tanks here. And he'd like, cool. and I'm like, are you going to tell me I'm wrong? Are you going to tell me I gotta, you know, I gotta do. No, he just supported me. My craziness. And I didn't really understand how powerful that was. To do what you want. When you don't do what you want, when you do what someone else wants you to do, you don't get to find out who you are. You know, you don't get to find out. I mean, imagine if you were writing a story and someone could tell you the words correct. It's not your story. It's not your book. It's not your art. Then this is art. So Ron was an amazing influence on me because he taught me that I should do what I want to do. Okay? And I don't think it really clicked how powerful and important that was to me. But that Total Annihilation was amazing. Now I'm going to come back to Total Annihilation because I think we've got some Total Annihilation fans here. So I'm going to come back to Total Annihilation. Very quickly, I'm going to run through the rest of this. So I started my own company in 1998. I did a game called I designed a game called Dungeon Siege at the company. We did good, you know, and in fact it sold more copies than Total Annihilation, which was kind of cool. And then Supreme Commander was like the spiritual successor. There are lessons to learn from all of these things, but I didn't want to just turn this into a big talk about all the things I learned about all the games. Because, I mean, I learned a lot in 25 years. I mean, holy shit, 25 years. You got to learn something. And I learned a few things, but I'm not going to have time to tell you all that today. So we went on and we developed other games, and things got weird for us. You know, I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to manage payroll. I've got health care that's going up in cost. I've got $45,000 a month in rent alone, $5,000 electricity bill, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just to keep the business running. I'm a long way from Kansas at this point. You know, I'm a long way from what I love to do, was to sit in front of that computer and write code and dream up games. And I got myself, I practically had a nervous breakdown. I think I did have a nervous breakdown. By the time I got to Wild Man, I thought, I was fried. I was fried. And it was, you know, it's kind of good sometimes to find your limits. You know, go out, wander the desert, starving, thirsty, meet your frickin' spirit animal, whatever, kill it. You know, there might be something to that. But the fact is, it was tough. And that's a whole, I could give you guys a whole talk on that, but you know what? You're not going to do that, because you're not going to make those same mistakes. Because hopefully you're gonna learn from the mistakes of others, perhaps. All right. Now you guys know the last chapter in my career, which the last chapter is I sold Gaspard Games to wargaming.net. And I have to tell you, this is a commitment from their management so that I get to go back and do what I love. And I am just thrilled to have made it through to the other side. I mean, this is like, you know, that was a journey, and I'm glad to be here today and be able to talk about it. There's a lot of people who are my age. I'm 47 years old. There's a lot of guys that are 47 and they ran screaming from the business. The business killed them. You say, are you going to do another game? And they're like, not in a million years. I've had enough of that. The Western publishers, the crazy shit. I mean, it's tough. It was tough. Because they have no vision. They don't look forward into the future, they just look behind them. That's all they can see. They can just see sales data. They can just see what's already been. They've got perfect 20/20 vision when they're looking backwards. And no, we shouldn't fault them. That's the way money works. Money tends to look backwards. And visionaries look forward. Entrepreneurs look forward. Engineers, artists, creative people look forward. You guys look forward to the future. And that's your job, and that's why you're gonna get the big bucks, because you're looking to the future, okay? And you're gonna fight against all those people pushing you the other direction, because you're gonna have the vision to create something new. All right, so let's just move to this next slide. This is some pictures of some of the games, the boxes, so maybe you recognize some. It was fun to have such a variety of games instead of, you know, I sort of feel sorry for those super successful people who make the first game and it's a hit and they spend the rest of their lives doing sequels on it. You've got to wonder about that. That's like a really weird, I haven't figured that out yet, so I'll get back to you in maybe 20 years and we can talk about that. The success of having to do the same game for the rest of your life. Here's a screenshot from Total Annihilation. Let me just take a few minutes to talk about Total Annihilation. I didn't know that. I mean, you don't know stuff about yourself when you're younger. I was 29 when I started working on the game. I worked on it for, I think it was 20 months. I like details. Details are really important. And people tend to prioritize the importance of something based on its size. So of course, if it's a little detail, it's not very important. And it goes down the list. It's only the big stuff. Well, you know, damn it, the game shouldn't crash. Don't you think that's important? Well, you're like, yeah, the game shouldn't crash. It's like an ongoing comedy routine all the time in the office, right? You know? Don't you think we should have a menu or something to be able to play the game before we worry about rendering laser fire on the radar map? Yeah, that's a good point. But the fact is, the details matter a lot. And they mattered a lot to me, and a lot of details. Lots and lots of details. Total Annihilation for me was incredible because I was not only the lead engineer, the project lead and the lead designer, I had complete control of everything that was going on, and that's awesome. You have to feel sorry for people who work on gigantic teams with 200 people. They're like oil tankers turning. You know, it's very hard to see something specific going into the game because you decided you wanted it right now. And when you're the lead engineer, you just go right in and code anything you want. And I made all my dreams come true. I mean, I was in there adding shit, just whatever I wanted. Wake up in the morning, I'm going to add some stuff. It was great. Great. We're going to add some stuff to all your games after this. Go right to it. You bring your laptops. Let's get to it right after. All right. So, I love the details. Total Annihilation was about details. I wanted tanks that moved exactly, precisely in the direction they were going. I wanted them to be able to move backwards and shoot. I wanted the barrels to elevate precisely to the firing angle. I wanted the barrels to recoil when the shell was fired. I wanted the shot to emerge precisely from the end of the barrel. I wanted the muzzle flash to go off at the exact right time. I wanted to have the shot calculated in 3 dimensions so that it was fired, if it was fired from high ground, it traveled further. If you were behind a hill, you wouldn't get shot because the shot would penetrate into the hill. Remember, this is a time when games were doing insta-shot. So you do the damage to the enemy and then they'd render something to say something happened there. And this sucks. Now, as it turns out, those games went on and made billions of dollars who did that, so I must be an artist, you know. Because, you know, artists, you know, we tend to be more poor. So if you're broke, you know you're an artist. So just throwing that out there. And I mean, I honestly, let me just squeeze this in. You know, I never, ever prioritized money ahead of my art. I never put money. You know, I was born in British Columbia, Canada. Now we're like the 51st state, right? You guys know this. The way we live in Canada is almost identical to the United States, although we are a different country. But moving to the States, you realize something that you should have realized when you were living in Canada, that it seems like all anybody gives a shit about is money. Money this, money that, look at my car, look at my watch, look at my house, look at my TV. You know, after a while, it just gets ridiculous. As you get older, you just go, what the hell is wrong with you people? You know, you have your children, you have your health. You have so many things, you have so many hidden talents. Is money really that important? But apparently it seems to be in the world that we live in, mostly the world I live in. But I didn't give a shit, because you see, when I got up in the morning and I went to what they call work, I was going to play. In fact, I had a really hard time calling it work. Well, I gotta go to work on Monday, and I'm like, I'm not going to work. What are you doing? Well, I'm gonna go to this office and work on a video game. That's what I do. I'm like, yeah, that's work, isn't it? Well, no, it can't be. If Eddie Van Halen, you guys remember Eddie Van Halen? He's a really good guitar player. If he was sitting there playing his guitar on Saturday night, and his friend says, what are you doing, Eddie? Eddie wouldn't say, well, I'm working. He's pretty much screwing off, isn't he, with his guitar? And he's loving every minute of it. Wait a sec, that's a different band. That's a different song. So the thing is, he's not working. I'm not working. I hope you guys aren't working. I just want to put that out there. I hope you're not working. If you're working, take a minute to ask yourself this question. How can you stop working and start playing? That's going to make a big difference if you can make that change in your day. Especially if you're in the interactive entertainment, video game business that we're in. You see if you can turn it into fun. See if you can turn it into your play, and then suck someone into paying you for it. Because that's what I've done. For 25 years. I feel pretty good about that. So I do. Sometimes I just feel like a con artist, and they know it. They're like, we're giving you money, and you're just going to this office and working with computers. I don't know. So anyways, this was the epitome of that for me on Total Annihilation. Okay? I wanted to do things like this. This is one more screenshot from the game, and then I'm going to move on. But every single thing I saw from battles, from wars, always had shit blown up everywhere that was destroyed. Tanks and cars and buildings and wagons and it's awful. War is awful, right? I mean, there's no question about it. But video games are fun. I always justify that. I have this guilt. Someone said you should be Catholic. You have so much guilt. I don't know. Any Catholics here who feel as guilty as I do? The fact, Catholic, we'll be right over here. The fact that if your 5-year-old son learns to play chess, right? You go, cool, you're learning how to use your mind. That's what I tell people when they play Total Annihilation. You're using your mind. It's good. It's good, excellent. Now build more of that shit and get it over there because you're going to get killed. So this is my excuse that I love to duplicate these little things and make the game more genuine and more realistic. And I wanted wreckage, and people are like, well, you can't have wreckage because it's going to slow the game down. Well, shit, I don't like these kinds of answers. So I came up with the idea that, well, if everything on the screen is blown up, there can't be anything on the screen moving, right? Therefore, the game's going to be fine. And it's true. It worked out just fine. Now, some of you may challenge that who had like supercomputers back in the when TA came out, and I managed to melt your motherboard. Is anybody here that they lost a perfectly good computer and it's my fault? I've got a poster or something for you at the end as a small consolation for destroying your equipment. I just, you can light a cigarette off the cooling fan, It was great. But anyways, when someone tells you something can't be done, when someone blocks you with common sense and logic, you know you're on the right track. Yeah, in fact, that's actually a really good, that's a good guiding, principle. The world we live in likes to continue to do the same thing it always did over and over and over again. If you take a look at history, the people who bucked the system, the people who did something different. Now, there's a lot of failures, but man, those who went against all of this common sense and logic and made something new and interesting, they've done very well. And that's the prize that's out in front of us in the video game business. Like with the success of Puzzles and Dragons and Clash of Clans and Candy Crush and Angry Birds. I mean, everybody wants that. But I think they're chasing something it's not theirs. Those games, I mean, maybe those games were clones of other games and clones of clones of clones. And, but ultimately, what I'm here to talk about today is taking your creativity for something that you love in your heart, and then with all this passion, shoving that right into existence. Okay? Because you probably already discovered this, every one of you in the room. You said, well, I've got this new idea. And everybody looks at you. Yeah? What could it possibly be? You're like, well, and then you kind of go, well, I'm thinking about it. I'll tell you later. There's this force, and it's big. It's a big, ugly force, and it pushes against original ideas, exciting new ideas, ideas that are weird. We're living right now in the time that those are the best ideas. I am so, I don't want to say I'm sick of, but I kind of am. I love stuff that's new. Now, I don't like stuff that's new that's shitty. It has to be good, right? This is the challenge. You gotta make something good and new, but let it come from inside you. And that's where the passion matches up with the creative. Let it come from inside. I use this ridiculous, when I like to make an analogy to something or create a metaphor, some damn thing, I like to create the most extreme example. And I say, let's say there's this guy and he likes to build things out of toothpicks. And everyone he knows thinks he's a nut because he builds things out of toothpicks. But he doesn't just build a few things, he builds a lot of things out of toothpicks. In fact, he makes so many things out of toothpicks, he uses millions of toothpicks. And he gets so good at it, there's no one else in the world that's as good as they are. And one day, some gigantic company is looking for a piece of art for the lobby of their, massive super skyscraper, and they're like, what would be really freaking weird in the lobby? How about a replica that's 50 feet tall of the building in the lobby, made out of toothpicks? Who can do that? There's a guy in Kansas who's been doing this shit his whole life. He's really good at it. I mean, I think this happens because when you're the only one in the world that cares more than anyone else and you practice and you're good at it, people take notice. And we see that a lot. We see a lot of it. Now that we have YouTube, holy cow, I mean, there's some people who do some crazy stuff. And they're really good, and you just can't touch that. That's amazing. I don't know how many hours do they spend with that skateboard or whatever it is. So I think it's really important that you understand that if you love something a lot and you get really, really good at it, the world will pay attention and take notice of you. Okay? So that's one of the things that I've learned. And so I made the mistake over my 25 years. I would have moments where I would be able to recognize and identify something that I loved. And then I kind of pushed it away and I became too businesslike. I became too practical. I lost sight of the things that I was really passionate about. My first slide that I showed you had a picture of some clay and it had some electronics. I love electronics. I've decided that I love electronics so much. And I built a working Z80-based computer from scratch, from parts I bought on eBay. I'm going to figure out a way to bring electronic computer design into my games. I don't know how. I don't know why that's fun. I don't know why you guys would care. Maybe you guys are going to be the ones who play it, but I'm going to figure it out because I'm passionate about it, because I love it. I love digital electronics. It's sick how much I love digital electronics. I don't know what it is, the ones and zeros, the careful timing, the dynamic refresh, all that shit. I'm crazy about it. You have something that you love so much that you probably are going, well, that might not sell. That may not be commercially viable in a video game. But you gotta give it a second look, if not now, at some time, and bring your passion to the world. I met a young woman who's got a game called Centris. She's doing a Kickstarter for it. And she loves music. And when she was at this, kind of like what we have here, she was at this thing and she's showing me the game. Her passion came through so strong for her game. I didn't give a shit about the game. Here's some money. Passion. I want people who believe in yourself. All right. I don't know. It looks good. I don't know why I put that in. Okay. This is really the question. What makes you happy? You know, the happy thing. My father was good. He said, son, I don't care what you do as long as you're happy. I don't think he meant that. I think he meant get a fucking job. But the words that came out of his mouth were, whatever makes you happy. If you're gonna sit up on that computer all day and all night and not do your homework and get a D, as long as you're happy. I was terrible at school. You know, but one thing I can stand up here and prove is I loved video games. I love video games so much. From when I was 14, from before that, Pong. I love Pong. Look, what the hell is up with Pong? There's nothing going on in Pong, and I love Pong. What the hell? That's big. Can you imagine if someone said I'd come up with Pong now? You'd go, I've done you a favor. But seriously, Pong, I mean, it was awesome. Breakout, change the colors, I mean, anything. It was in hardware. I love that stuff. It was great. You know what? I buy old arcade boards off eBay, and I strip all the parts off of them. I feel bad doing that. But it's they're broken. So I don't, you know, I'm getting really cool parts. It's a cheap way to get parts. But I love that stuff. And you know, my father said, whatever makes you happy. And so I said, well, you know, Dad, making video games makes me happy. It's like it was like being gay back in 1980. Coming out to your parents. Dad, I want to be a professional video game developer. Out. No, my dad was very supportive. And I love him for it. And he bought me my first computer. He bought me my TRS-80, so he changed my whole life. That was what made me happy. And I run into people who say, well, you know, I really don't care about fame. I just want the cash. They exist. There's maybe some of you in this room even that say, well, I don't really play games, I just want the money. And there have been some very successful people. But that's not who I am. And that's not the kind of, that's not what I spread when I talk to people. I talk about wanting to do what makes you happy. You know, there's people who I know and love, and they work on teams of 200 people making gigantic games that are literally going to do $1 billion in revenue. And when you go to their place where they work, there's like 400 people in a room, and that's just a few of them, and there's more people over here, and you're just going, you know, if that's what makes them happy, if that's how they feel good, that's fine. But I know that's not for me. I really, really like working with people that I know, and I like that. I like the smaller team thing. It doesn't make it right or wrong, though. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's all good. It's whatever makes you happy. And some people, you know, they just want to make games and give them away for free, right? And we see, and that's great too. You don't have to make money. You don't even have to be famous. You just have to enjoy what you do. So I respect all kinds of different. But I have to be biased. I definitely, I'll admit to you, I wanted to be famous. I didn't say I want to make games and I don't want anybody to know about me. I have a gigantic ego. My ego was I want to make games and have the whole world know who I am. You know, like, I was actually kind of surprised when I was able to pull that off after Total Annihilation. I was really genuinely shocked. I was like, holy shit, really? It's that easy? You just make a game you really care about and people will come, you know, and so that was great. That was great. But honestly, that's just me being painfully honest that it was in the back of my mind, but it wasn't about the money. When I started Gas-Powered Games, I told everybody that walked in the door, I said, we're not starting this company so we can sell it and make money. That's not why we're doing this. So if you come to Gas-Powered Games, I hope you're not looking for a big paycheck, a payday, or, you know, frankly, any, you know, free soda was about the extent of it. But we basically weren't setting the company up for the big pay window, you know? And I got offers to sell Gas-Powered Games close to 30 million. I got one for almost 24 million. I went through all of these offers. I said, no, 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 no. This is true, because I didn't care. I was like, what the hell am I gonna do with $20 million? In my mind, I know it's hard for some people to imagine. Really, you didn't know what you wanted to do? Ferraris and shit and islands and your own runway. What the fuck? 20 million. Think about it. I know you guys have probably lost you completely now. I've lost my whole point. No, seriously, because I was like walking through Safeway, going, well, if I say yes to this, I'll have $20 million. But I'm already doing what I love. I'm already doing every day. I'm working with great people. I'm having fun. Mind you, this was more towards the first 6 or 7 years in the business. It got pretty ugly at the end. I was like, where's that 20 million? On an island. But It's kind of cool to go through that experience, you know. I've done all right though. I have no complaints. But it's really important, and I think it was a real test of my own artistic sort of side, that I wasn't just in it to make money. Because if I was in it to make money, I'd be long gone from this business, because I wouldn't have cared to stick around. I would have taken the money and I would have buggered off, and I wouldn't be standing here today. So the only reason I'm up here today talking to you is because I'm out of my fucking mind. Yeah. According to the rest of the world, I like my crazy. I'm a little weird. Yes, that's true. Okay, so the question is, you know, what makes you happy? Inside your being, you know the answers. You know the course to plot and take. Stick to it. When people push against it, push back harder. Sometimes you got to pay the rent. Sometimes you got to, you know, you got to buy gas and feed your kids. You got to do all these things, and you need money. We understand that. But the fact is, you can always keep your eye on the prize of what you want to do, where you want to go, and what you're going to make. And I still feel like there's some things that I want to do in my career that I'm still working to get there. I'm still going to be working to that goal to try to make those games that frankly may not be played by more than, you know, maybe tens of thousands instead of millions, and no publisher would sign them, etc., etc. But that's okay. I'm past that. I'm back to 1980. I'm back to a kid who wants to make something cool on a computer and be creative and express my love of things that maybe only I care about. That's where I've ended up. So so that's basically my thing. You get a combination of your creative and your passion, and then there's magic, and you get to share that magic with your friends, maybe the world. Thank you. So we have some time for Q&A. I was all just going to run out the door and
only a couple of questions.
jump.
No se escucha ese micrófono.
2 questions. 2 preguntas. Question?
Si alguien quiere hacer una pregunta en español, podemos tratar de traducirlo. No hay problema.
Allá al fondo.
Hello. Here. And the light.
I'm with you.
How can I convince you that I have a lot of passion?
I'm convinced.
Another question?
If only it were this easy. Are we on TV? You guys are great.
Well, I think it's easy to convince you that we have passion, but maybe it's difficult to tell other people our passions, or telling them that our passions will make us happy in an easier way than the money does. I'm talking about the society or things like that. Maybe people say you have to work and stuff like that, and you try to convince them that what you're doing, you feel that will make you a better life than money can do.
Well, when I hear you say that, it makes me think about sacrifice. Okay? When I was 14, and 15 and 16, and I was growing up and I was learning how to program and doing things on the computer, my friends maybe were going out to the movies, and I wasn't going to the movies. Or, you know, certainly in my professional career, I worked like 12-hour days, usually, sometimes more, but definitely 7 days a week. I worked 7 days a week. I worked 7 days a week for 14 years because I love what I do. Okay, so if you love what you do and you're willing to sacrifice time out hiking and riding bikes and getting exercise and having sex, if you want to sacrifice all that, then yeah, you're going to make your passion is going to come through, unfortunately in a completely different way, but it's going to come through. You got to take time out for sex. I didn't say. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sometimes you have to have sex with yourself though, because you're in a pinch and you just don't have time.
I started studying to make video games last year. I'm still learning a lot of stuff, coding, programming, and doing 3D art and game design theory. But I'm just beginning, and I don't know where I'm going to begin when I'm done studying. What do I do? Where do I start?
Okay, I think that this was the right talk for you to attend, because here's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that you need to figure out what you love that's something from your childhood. Maybe there's just something that you love, that you are fascinated. You love comic books, you love bikes, you like soccer, you like something that you were absolutely passionate about, and then you discovered video games. Well, this is an opportunity to bring those together. Okay, but you got to keep going with everything. You got to keep studying. Check out Code Academy. You can learn HTML5. You can learn JavaScript. You can learn CSS. You can learn PHP. You can learn, I think, Ruby. The Code Academy is free. It's awesome, right? The web is I think, going to play an enormous role in the future, and I'm going to use it to develop all of my cool stuff that I'm working on with hardware. And I'm telling you, if you go and just keep at it, keep learning to code, keep learning technology, buy books. I love Amazon. I buy so many books off Amazon. I pay 99 cents, I have to pay the shipping. You know, they're cheap because I buy books that are old and used, and I fill up bookshelves with these books. And I'm inspired by these books. I can't read them all, but I can surround myself by them and I can be inspired by them.
A big applause for Gusto. Estos pósters son uno de Action 6 y otro de Spring Commander y están firmados por todo el equipo que hizo el juego. Okay. El número, perdón, no hay tiempo para la misteria, así que muy rápido. El número es 846 con violeta, con unas linitas violetas. 846. Hola, ahí está, 846. Muy bien. Aplauso. Another one. 695. 695, 695. ¿No? No, ok, another one. Ok. 844. 844. Ahí está. Yes. Vamos. Thank you. Un aplauso. También va a estar firmando póster también, Chris, si quieren. Bueno.
Esto no está firmado por todo el equipo, pero sí le voy a dar.
Durante la próxima hora, Chris va a estar en el piso firmando los pósters. Okay, another applause for Chris, please. Thank you.